Peace, Morris. Give me 1 second. Peace, Mo. Peace. We just getting one thing situated real quick, getting our early morning concoction ready before we get our day started. But I just wanted to share stuff with my brothers and sisters before we go do our teaching today. Get my breakfast. Got that nice reishi tea. That good concoction, Morris. When I tell Morris about your arcana, that good reishi tea, man, in the morning. Good Korean tea. That good Korean tea, Morris. Nice little green tea. I mix it all, man. And then I put my, let me show you. Then I put my spices in there. My spirulina for that good vitamin C, that natural. I put my ginger in it. My turmeric. My cinnamon and honey. Morris, don't you know all this stuff is in our biblical scriptures? That's why this part of the Hebrew diet, you can look right in your biblical scriptures and get out of all that Jesus stuff and get into the science. It's in there. When I tell Morris about kosher, that's not a religious thing. That's a way you make sure all the blood is drained from the animals, for it can be pure. But that's a whole nother teaching, Morris. But a lot of my family back in Flint, Michigan, and Detroit, Michigan, are asking me, "Am I coming to do the lecture in July?" Yes, I am. The flyers will be out soon. We're gonna do a 2-hour lecture in Flint, Michigan, and we're gonna do one in Detroit, Michigan, in July. I'm not going to broadcast it. If any of my family, if any of the Moors, whoever what you claim to be, if you want to view the lecture, both of them in Flint, all you have to do is donate $20. Yep, exactly, Mo. But I'm going to do the lecture in Michigan. If any of my brothers and sisters that's online want to preview the lecture, all we asking for a $20 donation. With that $20 donation, I will ship you one of our books that we gathered and compiled. It will come with a tax-exempt receipt and a tracking number. That would allow you to log on to my site and you can watch the lecture. My lectures are free, but I ask for a donation because we are building a nation. And with that $20 donation, you get literature. I'm also going to have a list at the lecture of all ancient books that I print on my printing press that I order for my members. I have a plethora of books in my library. I have over 15,000 books. I have books that cost a lot that a lot of brothers can't get because that's where I spend my funds. And I'm part of different organizations where I'm introduced to ancient literature. Like I have a master's in ancient history. I'm part of the Philosophical Society. And I'm 33 times 3, ancient writer, Memphis and Mizraim. So I go to LA a lot, to the Philosophical Library, and I get a lot of information. But Moors, if you want to log on to the lecture, all we ask you to do is download our temple number into your phone. Download the Cash app. Our office number, our temple number is 702-272-4775. Once you do that, you can send me a text to our office and say, hey, the $20 is for me to log on to watch the lecture. And then I will give you all the information for you can log on and watch the lecture. And I'm going to show the books that you will get with your $20 donation. I will ship you one of these books of your choice. When Moore is asking what should they read, you should have the Circle 7 Quran and you should have the Silent Brotherhood of the East. But the books that I gather and compile and all my students have where we're on the same level, this is one of them, and they're all only a $20 donation. It's the Moorish American's Light of Ali and the Adapt Study Guide, the Moorish House of Ali, the Egyptian Adapt Prophet and Angel. We need to have this. For you won't get confused when somebody telling you something. Man, we don't know by someone telling you. You know by studying. When you are a scholarly researcher, when somebody telling you something, that's the time when you must research it to make sure it's valid, Moors. You just don't believe on no one because they have on a fez or a turban and they're talking eloquently with a silver tongue and convincing. No, you must research all sources. Research everything that I'm saying. I'm not here to convert anyone. I know who I am. And I challenge brothers and sisters to know who they are. I know that I'm a business and I operate as a business. We need to understand that. You have to research the researcher. If you're not willing to do that, then you're under religious dogma. That's dogma, Moors. I give you resources. I'm not up here just babbling off at the mouth. So Sufism and the triple role of the adapt chamber, featuring the committed and adapt manual and the use of our carpenter tools. When I see Negroes saying that Moors are not master masons, I'm like, well, you're not reading your circle 7 Quran. Chapter 5, verse 12 to 20 talks about your workman tools. We let others, Europeans and Albions, take our science and we act like it's spookism. But I don't see no Moors arguing with no European wearing the fez and clandestine with Allah and Egypt and Arabic all on it. We don't do that. But we argue with our brothers and sisters, talk about what some noble Drew Ali taught. The prophet is dead. We're supposed to take it to a next level. This is a holistic. In Moorish science, what our prophet said, what our American prophet said, if you don't do nothing, man, we must show our people to nationalize. All that religious dogma is bullcrap. Because if you're a true sheikh and adept and a divine minister, then you understand the essence of the triple roles. And you teach science. Healthy living and eating, prepared for publication by my empress. Mind, body, and spirit must agree as one. Your body is your temple. The essence of chemical element of Moorish archival. 14 famous Asiatic scientists in history. This is what my elementary kids write on when it's some so-called Black History Month. They blow the teachers' minds. Black scholars who debunk Eurocentric propaganda. We got to know about Amos Wilson. We got to know about John Henry Clark. We got to know about Sheikh Anta Diop. We got to know about Amos Wilson. We got to know about our people, man. We got to know about Ivan Van Sertima. You are what you eat. Eat good, look good, and feel good. Our vegan cookbook. Delectable vegan treats. We make vegan treats for our kids and ourselves so we can eat healthy. I like snacks, but I like to make sure I'm taking care of myself. Our coloring book for our babies so they can see themselves in royalty and in kingship. I Am Royalty coloring book. And the one, my favorite, that I try to have all Moors donate to get this literature is the interpretation of the divine creed of Moorish Islam. Because some of these Moors getting it twisted. Moorish science is not no Al-Islam. And if that's the case, Moorish science would be just like Christianity. Because those are outside of yourself. Al-Islam, pie in the God in the sky. Christianity, pie in the sky. If you understand dispensation, if you understand time periods, and this is scholarly research when I tell brothers and sisters, get out your religious dogma, get out your feelings, and get into history. If you don't know geographical landmass and dispensation and time periods when it came from the Renaissance to the whitewashing time, to the medieval time, to the Dark Ages, you're lost in the wrong dispensation. Because history and geographical landmass tell you when Muhammad walked the earth, it was under the Byzantine Empire. Muhammad married who? Khadijah, high Roman priestess. Who was her cousin? Wergra, high Roman priestess. You must do the math and see where you're being tricked. Brothers talking about some transatlantic slave trade. Way before the transatlantic slave trade, Morris, was the Arab slave trade, when the Arabs enslaved all the indigenous people from Africa. But we don't know that. We just get arguing. They drawing the land up from you by changing the language. So I'm going to recap what we were doing yesterday, and I'm going to give a little bit about the Washitaws, and when my other literature come tomorrow about we are the ancient ones, I'm going to show you this and connect the dots, man. One nationality, many cultures. We got to understand the science. The Hebrew is the Moor, but you connotated using your religion as your nationality. But I can show you all across the boards where Hebrews and Negroes were different. When I showed you Hebrew Hill, when it said Israelites and Negroes, but Israelites were the Moors. But I have to teach that. Now I'm going from the excerpt. I'm in Otello's Children. And I'm gonna just touch on this little part of masonry, and then I'm gonna get into the other excerpt because I gotta get out of here. I want Moors to listen clearly. On March 6, 1775, an African Caribbean soldier named Prince Hall was initiated in a British Army lodge while stationed in Boston. Since the time, this prominent founder of Black American Freemasonry has drawn much criticism from white Euro-American Masons. White American Masons have traditionally asserted that Prince Hall's organization is illegitimate or clandestine. Now, just the same way you see these, and I have to say this because I know Prince Hall Masons, I teach them. They know the science, but they caught up under some European dogma. The Prince Hall did the same thing with Moorish science once they got okay by the European. But we don't need validation by a European because the science comes from Moorish science. If you research the Europeans, they will tell you where the science come from. Alex Crowley, Manly P. Hall, all of them. That's all more science. It's nothing spooky. I show you that. Alesius Levi, the Baphomet is written Kabbalistically. Hope Abba, Temple of David, Asiatic black man, everything in that from the hand up to the hand down, that Kov Sava. Kov mean breaking down. Sava mean bring it back together. That's true alchemy. But we get caught up in spookism. Let's finish. In characterizing white masonry, objection to Prince Hall Masons, Dunels points out that the reason given by European American Masons is the one of legality. There we go again. Most European American Masons say that Prince Hall didn't establish his lodge in accordance with proper Masonic law. But they won't tell you they went to Egypt, which is Kemet, because Egypt is a European Greek name, and stole a science. When you research King Menakaru, it's all more science. Although Donnell says that this reflects the Masonic obsession with rules and laws, she personally believed that racism is more the issue. Appropriately, Martin R. Delaney once said of Freemasonry and white efforts to deny it to African people, and I quote, "To deny black men the privileges of Masonry is to deny a child the lineage of its own parentage. From whence sprung Masonry, but from Ethiopia, which in antiquity, Abyssinia, I'm telling you Abyssinia, Egypt and Assyria, all settled and peopled by children of Ham." Children of Ham. Do you see that? The father of Masonry is the Asiatic black man. Just like when brothers be, oh, you know who Angelo Solomon is? Yeah, fool, the father of Masonry. Mozart, they changed the color. You must be a philosopher. But William Upton, a European American Mason, defended Negro Masonry, Prince Hall Masonries, in his book, Negro Masonry, being a critical examination of objections to its legitimacy of the Masonry existing among the Negroes of America. Upton points out that according with Masonry's legal protocols, the Prince Hall Masons received their Masonic authority from the Mother Lodge in England. Upton further states that Hall was a free African subject. Do you hear that? So back then, free, when Frederick Douglass would travel, you had to have your free papers. Free American subject of the British Empire. Morris, when I show you the Moorish Empire in Europe, it's 3 volumes. We were everywhere. You talking about Egypt, brother, so caught up in Egypt, but you forgetting right here. You forgetting right here in the States. You are home. Who later joined the Revolutionary cause and joined the Continental Army. Morris, when you research the real cause of the Civil War, research how much that literature costs. I have them. They try to charge you $1,700, $1,800 on Amazon. Research the Indian of the Western Hemisphere. See how much that literature costs on Amazon. See how much a Russian icon by Vladimir Ivanov costs. Mr. Siebert, the Dauphin County historian and Mason, with whom I spoken in 1990, also said that, in his opinion, the Prince Hall Masons were a legitimate Masonic order. Mr. Siebert even characterized the Prince Hall organization as more Masonically legal and legitimate than several of the so-called white American Masonic lodges who discounted them. They always discount it when we come together, but they can't when we do it legally, Moors. Although DeMel's charge of racism is reasonable, the fact remains that mainstream white American Masonry is still found to possess non-European members. Non-European members. That's clandestine, Moors. When I go operate, that's why they bow down to real Moors. When the Europeans, when the Prince Hall put that fez on, they become Shriners, sons of Muslims. That password, Assalamu alaikum. The Master Masons, them Europeans, even them preachers, they know who the father of civilization is because they study it. They have the supreme lessons, Moors, which all Moors should have the supreme lessons. Will tell you the geographical landmass, tell you how much water on the earth, everything. Science, all Moors should have the zodiac laws. But Hawaii's king, Kalakana, joined a San Francisco chapter of the Shriners in 1891. And there he was at least one Masonic American Indian. The Iroquois chief Joseph Brent. Amazingly, Chief Brent is also known to have attended the Moors Indian School under the Reverend Eleazar Wheelock. Wheelock was the minister who referred to Jesus as our prophet. Brent is also significant for having translated one of the Christian Gospels into the Algonquian language, Algonquian language. In discussing the Indian Alliance, Six Nations, with the loyalist Masonic historian Sidney Hayden states, The leaders of the Loyalists were Sir John Johnson, Colonial Guy Johnson, and Colonials Butler and Claus, all relatives and all formerly distinguished Masons of the Mohawk Valley and members of St. Patrick's Lodge. Their Indian ally, Brant, the war chief, was also a Mason. I can go on and on, man. I'm going to skip down to a little bit. I have been advised that Negroes are allowed to visit the Scottish Rite Lodge in Tampico and are honored guests, as there is no state in the Union to the north of us who recognize colored Masons. This is a very serious irregularity. If continued, cannot fail to hurt our cause. That's why we must do our own. And Negro, blacks, and colored always want to assimilate. No, create your own. You don't have to get validation for somebody outside yourself. That don't even make sense. That don't even make sense, Morris. We are the original teachers. So let me give you a little something and I'm done. Washitaw Moors, you see that, right, Morris? Wait till the ancient ones come down. I'm going to break all of it down. Like, man, we just been lied to. You've been lied to. Let me give you something. Who are the Washitaw? We are the Aboriginals, the dark-skinned, bushy-haired, original inhabitants of the so-called North and South America. MUU, Mu Africana, AFRMUURICANA, Afro-American, More Afro-American. You got to research the science, man. When you research in the 1828 Webster Dictionary what an American is. American is the copper-colored races found here by the Europeans. We have been referred to as the pre-Columbian civilization, Morris. The prehistoric mound builders, the Dustinians, the diggers, the Asiatics, the tribe of Shabazz, the people of the wilderness, the lost tribes, the big buffalo people, and the ancient ones. All of us, one nationality, many cultures. Certified legal documents of colonial Spanish and French invaders identified us as the ancient inhabitants and occupants, Moors. We are the imperial Washitaw nation of mound builders, Moors, akin to the Moors of Northwest Africa, a Mexican, Akubalan, or Akibalan. The Moors built the highly advanced geometric earthworks and sacred burial mounds found all over the continent, Moors. Found all over the continents. Exactly, Mo. The Washitaw and the Tunic, or Turner, families carried the imperial bloodline, Moors. After the Americans came into our land, these names were altered to Washington and Turner. Just like when you look in the biblical scriptures, when you get the 1599 Geneva Bible, it don't say nothing about Ethiopian or African. It strictly says Moor or Blackamoor. When I show you how they changed the pen, they changed the pen. They also changed the spelling of Washitaw, W-A-S-H-I-T-A-W, to O-U-A-C-H-I-T-A. That's European. They'll show you that, man, it's stuff in the museums everywhere. I got so much information from museums all over, proving things, and more just arguing over some Negro stuff, arguing over what the prophet said. I said, you don't know what the prophet said because I can tell because you're not studying. And when a man honors man, he honors Allah. And when a man disrespects man, he disrespects Allah. If your brother is saying something wrong, you must help that brother and bring him up. I tell brothers, do you know what COINTELPRO mean? That's some real stuff. What an agent mean? That's some real stuff. That ain't nothing because you don't agree with a person. You want to just call a person an agent because you're not studying. But that's a European misnomer that retained the pronunciation of the original name. We talk about replacements. Like, for instance, you got to understand why Noble Drew Ali kept saying Jesus, because that's what Negro, blacks, and colors understood. That's not a transliteration. That's a replacement. Because, one, you cannot transfer Hebrew language to simple English because it can mean 10 different things depending on the context, Morris. My name is Kareem no matter where it's at. It ain't going to be translated to Tom. Come on, man. But several derivatives of Washitaw appear, such as Hachita, H-A-C-H-I-T-A, W-A-S-H-O, W-A-X-A-C-H-A-C-H-I-E, W-A-S-H, W-A-S-A-T-C-H, W-I-T-C-H-I-T-A, U-C-H-I-T-A, E-U-T-A-W, E-T-O-W-A-H, W-A-S-H-O-E, E-T-C Moors, the term Washitaw. Just like Moor, when I tell Moors, I said the reason why you didn't see Moor all when you were studying, because it's spelled different ways. It's still the same name like Moore. M-O-H-R, M-U-U-R, M-O-O-R-E, M-O-R, M-O-R-E, M-U-U-R. All through history, that's how they hide it. It's been there. Clearly printed on the original maps. Clearly printed on the original maps of Spanish land grants. The river named Rio Negro. Rio Negro, River of the Blacks. You ain't got to listen to me. I want you to study. That's what this should be going on in the temples. When brothers talking about, oh, they study civics. Well, civics is dealing with who you are. And then how you operate on this earth. The divine and national movement. You can't have one without the other, Moors. Brothers talking about civics. And I said, the only way to study civics is you must study real law. And if it ain't no brothers in there studying law, all brothers doing is reading lines, trying to have you go print some papers off the internet, fill your name in, and go see if it worked. But see if they doing it. Absolutely not. They trying to see if it works for you and get you in trouble. I'm telling you, man. Then a lot of more is talking about accessing some social security number. Okay, well, how you going to access something if it's not real? See, this is the thing. If you say it's not real, how you going to access something not real? So it's a whole bunch of research that you must do. You don't read nothing and get caught up, then run and get in trouble. We study and make sure it's valid and precedent cases through history, through real study. But the Rio River, River of the Blacks, is simultaneously labeled Rio Octica or Washitaw, O-U-A-C-H-I-T-A, the River of the Washitaw. In Egypt or Kemet Moors, hieroglyphic dictionary, Washitaw appears as W-S-T. For my brothers that say they read the Metanetter, I'm like, you can't, because if you read the Metanetter, you understand the signs and symbols, and the signs and symbol clearly showed the Y-H-W-H. It was a Hebrew god. On the hieroglyphics, this too simple. When I show you the slave ships that come from Judah, Benin, but they don't want to tell you that. They don't want to tell you that. You know? Pre-Mayan spelling in our original Mu language were U-A-X-A-C-T-U-N, U-A-X-A-S-H-A-K-T-U-N, Wahaktun, or Washaptun. In the ancient Orient, Shai Wang Ti, pronounced Shaiwanti, or transposed Washati, was the first sovereign emperor of China, Moors. We can go on and on with the wisdom, but I just want us to be clear on some things that we should understand. Like when I show you the excerpts from a report from during the Lewis and Clark expedition. They studied and when they traveled, they saw these people. And you can research this in the National Archives in Washington, or Washitaw, D.C., courtesy of Return of the Ancient Ones. The Washitaw Files. I'm going to lecture on that when the wisdom comes. The Tunic, or the Tunicas. These people formerly lived in the Bayou Tunic above Point Coop on the Mississippi east side. More, when we talk about the Nile Valley civilization, we connecting all that. The Washes, when the French came into Mississippi, this nation lived on an island to the southwest of New Orleans called Baratara or Barataria, and were the first tribe of Indians they became acquainted with and were always friends. They afterwards lived on a Bayou La Forge, and from being a considerable nation, are now reduced to 5 persons only. That's why when you research the doctrine of discovery, it'll tell you what really happened. The Chatos, C-H-A-C-T-O-O-S, lived on Bayou Bouf, or Bof, about 10 miles to the southward of the Bayou Radik. The Choctaws, there are a considerable number of this nation on the west side of the Mississippi who have been home for several years, about 12 miles above the post of Aquata, or Choctaw, O-U-A-C-H-I-T-A. On the river, there is a small village of them, of about 30 men who have lived there for several years and made corn, and likewise on the Bayou Chico in the northern part of the district of Opalas. And there's other villages in there too, Moors. Villages all over, In Arkansas, live on the Arkansas River, south side, in 3 villages about 12 miles above the postal station. The name of the first villages is Tauxunamia. Tauxunima. You can research all this stuff, man. So we connect the dots. One nationality, many cultures. I'm going to show you a picture of Empress Bernadette, Tierra, Washitaw Turner Gosselin, L. Bay. see, there go our empress. When you talk about some Louisiana Purchase, Moors, I've been to the museum. I got the whole maps. I got the big old map of the Louisiana Purchase. All that stuff is right here in the States. That's what they don't want to tell you. The exposition of Louisiana Purchase, all that stuff was right here in the States. In the early 90s, they gave the Moors a lot of land back. They only gave them a percentage back, but they gave it back, and they recognized the Moors. Empress Verdice Tierra, the Washitaw Turner Gostin El Bay. The Empress of the Washitaw is the fulfillment of the prophecies. Okay, we almost done. And it was the beginning, so shall it be in the end. The Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali, born the anointed Washitaw, Moor Timothy Drew, foretold of the salvation of humanity, symbolized by the woman rising to her rightful place. That's fallen humanity, Moors. The Asiatic woman, that's fallen humanity. He illustrated this by portraying himself carrying salvation to safety, symbolized by a woman. This whole fairs we wear is about the woman, Moors. I don't know what we're thinking. We're going around telling our empress they can't. Well, what this fair is all about? What this navel umbilical cord? What's this ball about? What's the string wine? What the tassels all about? What's the hose? All the four breathing holes. What's that symbolize? The Asiatic woman, the birth cycle, 9 to the ninth power. If any more tell you any different, they lying, and it ain't no truth in them. Our empress has continued the divine national mission set forth by all the prophets. Her Highness Verdice Tierra Washitaw Turner Tunica Gostin El Bay is the reigning empress of the Washitaw de Hungnier Empire and the leader of the Imperial Washitaw Nation of the Moors, MUURS. That's right. That's right, Mo. She is legal heir to the Mason Rule land grants that were skillfully willed to her great-great-grandfather, Henry Turner, son of the Marquis de Mason Rouge. When I get my book, Thomas Jefferson and his slaves, when I show you that history, that the reason why Thomas Jefferson tried to free the slaves, at the end, he had slaves when he was a kid, because his son was by a black woman. I'm going to show you documents, birth papers. The child of French nobility was rescued. Some accounts say kidnapped by the Baron Philip de Bastrop at the beginning of the unrest, culminating with the French Revolution. His Majesty, the King of Spain, uncle of de Mason Rouge, made a deal with the Baron de Bastrop to transport his nephew to the so-called New World for fear of his life. The French and Spanish had always maintained a friendly relationship with the imperial family and the inhabitants of the Washitaw proper. Yep, that's right, Mo. That's right. Exactly, Mo. The Marquis de Mason Rouge came to this area and married into the imperial family to the Washitaw. Just like when you study the history of Pocahontas, you see how the European forced himself and why. That's a whole nother lecture. As a knight of St. Louis under the Knights in Order of the religion of St. John, Knights of Malta, his marriage to the imperial Washoe woman would never be recognized by the Roman Catholic Church. You can research that, the Black Codes and the Return of the Ancient Ones. I hope y'all know about the Black Codes, right? Okay, if you don't, we need to research that. The Europeans were well aware of the ancient empire of the mound builders. Spanish and French historical records are filled with reports of highly civilized agricultural societies whose leaders lived in temples atop extraordinary earthen mounds. The ancient mound builders wore elegant turbans and pointed-toe shoes, not loincloth and moccasins. Just like when you go to certain areas, when you go to the, how can I say it? In the Netherlands, when you research Black Pete or Swarty Pyatt, you research that history, they ain't telling you that that's Moorish history, the Moorish attire. It's all Moorish science, but it's connotated. Hernando de Soto penetrated across the Mississippi River to the Rio Negro, the Washitaw River, or the Washita River in 1542, where he reportedly lived out his life. After more than 250 years of friendly relations and sharing the peace pipe with our great empire, it was only natural to preserve and enhance the Holy Grail in such a divine bloodline, Moors. Henry Turner is the child of Marquis de Mason Rouge by an imperial Washita woman, Her Highness St. Clair, Siri El Maria. You see they got ya and everything. We talk about the palindrome word. The palindrome word, when you have Yah to the right and Yah to the left. When I'll talk about the Yosos Homos code and Haya. That's something for my Hebrew brothers. They be like, what? I'm like, you say you're Hebrew Israelite? You saying Jesus? You don't know the Yosos Somos code and the original names? But that's another lecture. The discovery of her Egyptian-like coffin is recounted in Return of the Ancient Ones. After the Marquis's death, Henry Turner began recovering the titles to all of the land and rights granted under his father's name, including the Mason Rouge grant, the D. Bastro grant, and the Cross grant. One of the old empresses, Delphi Kim Washington Washitaw, 1849 to 1966, lived during turbulent years. This picture is also in the history of the Feds by one of our Moorish brother, Cosmo L. I don't want to go anymore, but he talk about all the land, everything. We must know this, Moors. How can we prove this? The term ancient ones can be taken literally. Watch this, Moors, and I'm done. Watch this. Exactly, Mo. The term ancient ones can be taken literally. The Washitaw have a history of longevity with common lifespans well over 100 years, Moors. Exactly, Moor. Haya. You got Y to the left, Yah to the right, Yah to the left. H-A-Y-H. Haya. Yah to the right, Yah to the left. Yoso Somo. Same thing, to the right, to the left. It's a palindrome word. We got our names off vibrations and rhythms. Charlie Grant Walker reportedly reached the age of 150 years. This sustained a perpetual oral history that was passed down firsthand through the generations. Witnessed the testimony of Susan Garrison Hill, daughter of the late Reverend R.C. Garrison, herself reported to be over 114 years old. Couple this with nearly 30 years of research by the Empress, directed by her grandmother, and we find an unquestionable compilation of facts that will revolutionize the teaching of this history forever, Moors. Return of the Ancient Ones, which will be here in a couple of days, contains authentic copies of the treaties, maps, conventions, Supreme Court cases, and other legal documents that will silence the skeptics. Some of the longest cases in the early history of the U.S. courts involved the heirs of Henry Turner and the United States, Moors. A thorough review of these cases will verify the legitimacy of the Spanish land grants and the rightful claims of the Turner Tunic heirs. The fact that this area was intentionally set up as a separate entity from the United States, never to be settled by Americans, is an explicit condition of the Mason Rouge land grants, Moors. U.S. congressional records from the early 1800s confirm the volatility of the Mason Rouge land grants. After several years of litigation, Moors, the U.S. attempted to have this matter heard in the U.S. Supreme Court. On June 19, 1848, the Turner heirs won the court case that affirmed them as the lawful owners of the good title, Moors. Securing the land rights of the imperial nation forever, Moors, the United States Supreme Court could derive no jurisdiction in the matters of foreign agreements. Only the laws of Spain could hold jurisdiction over contracts originated and constructed by a sovereign government. The U.S. Desperately tried to coerce the Turner heirs into relinquishing their claims, which they declined to do. Some officials in the government did not stop there, Moors. After suffering staggering defeats in their own judicial system, they dispatched agents to exterminate the Turner heirs, meaning to kill them. The period following the court cases saw a campaign of terrorist activities and organized criminalities that included wholesale murders, poisoning of the groundwaters, and sacking of the Washitaw properties. Like when the European brought the cows to the indigenous land and the damn cows grazed all the land, killed the buffalo out, gave them disease. That was done on purpose, Moors, but that's a whole nother subject. New laws were hurriedly passed, enticing Americans to slaughter the ancient inhabitants and take their lands. Eventually, once it was thought all the Washitaw Turners had been killed. Moors, when you research real history, the doctrine of discovery, when you had the Europeans and the Catholics come in and say, oh, we're going to take this land. They talk about they discovered something. You ain't discovered nothing that was always occupied. I can show you real history. let me see, the Turner had been killed, the Supreme Court tried to encourage the lower courts to reverse the rulings in favor of the Turner heirs, but it was not possible. The ideal of sovereign lands owned by those dark-skinned indigenous women mixed with the French royalists, Negroes, Creoles, Cajuns, infuriated the psychopathic, racist, and sexist supremacists in America. Fortunately, Moors, the Turner women and children were able to escape the genocidal campaigns by hiding in the bayous near the mounds. This proves to us that man cannot alter the designs of the Creator. God is the best of planners, Moors. I'm going to stop right there because I can go on and on. I got to get ready. But Moors, our lecture is going to be big coming up in July. Please, Moors, donate. Everything that you donate, any book, you can come with a tax-exempt receipt. You should have literature for you can study. I have ancient books that most can't get. I print them on my printing press and I send them to my people. You know? You know what I'm saying, Morris? Exactly. But you must study it all because that's what they say. Once you have the court cases, they say that. But true documents go against that more. I got the video. If you can pull up all the documents, all her lectures. I have all her lectures. She didn't say that. She didn't say she was no black in her lectures. They tried to say that to her. But she didn't say she was black, Morris. You know, you can pull up all her lectures. And then we must study the language. Because when a person say black, they're not saying that that's their nationality. Just like Negro beans, just like Negra beer. It just explained to you. But they're not saying that that's their nationality. Black is beautiful, but it's not a nationality. And we shouldn't be afraid to use words. When we understand the context, we don't let nobody connotate us. We don't let nobody get us caught up in linguistic apartheid. We don't let nobody get us caught up in subjectivity, objectivity. We must understand the two. You must understand denotation, connotation. You must understand etymology, etymon. You must understand all that. So when somebody speaking something to you, you won't put your feelings into it when they say black or a word. You must understand the context of what they're using that word black. Like everything is black. That's melanin. All the ants, everything that had life is black. If it didn't, then nothing will exist on this world. The closer you get to the sun is black. From darkness comes to light. That's the color system. From darkness comes to light. So why are we afraid of the darkness? We got to understand this and use the right context. Everything is ours. We must use language in the right way, in the right context, and not let nobody arbitrarily explain something to you in their own connotated subjective way, Moors. I love you all, family. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, my 2 cents, Moors, health, and wealth.